I have heard from a ton of different people that this is one of the best wedge designs ever created. But in this video, we're gonna put them through the gauntlet ourselves and see how they perform. So let's get right into it. In 2009, a man by the name of J.P. Harrington set out on a journey to create the greatest wedge design known to man. And over 10 years ago, that idea came to fruition under the name of J.P. Premier, a wedge model that has been raved about as an absolute game changer by those who have had the chance to play it. Unfortunately, the only issue with this Premier model is its price point, which is $600 per wedge. Yes, I promise you're hearing that correctly. But fast forward to 2024, and JP decided to launch a new product, one that incorporates the key aspect of the Premier model, but at a much more attainable price point. This new product being JP Camber, and it comes in at over 50% cheaper than the Premier model, but it's still a whopping $295. So what is it that potentially makes a wedge worth that steep of an investment? Well, it's all in the unique sole design that JP adds to his wedges, which he believes creates the most consistent turf interaction possible, but also offers the highest level of forgiveness and versatility available in the marketplace. You see, with nearly every wedge grind on the market, whether it be high bounce or low bounce, the sole is very flat as it moves into the leading edge portion of the sole. So as you lean the shaft forward, the leading edge lowers, contacts, and then digs into the ground, which for the majority of people, especially those who struggle controlling lead edge height, can lead to chunks and skulls around the greens and inconsistency in vertical strike location, which then leads to inconsistency in launch, spin, and carry numbers on fuller shots. On the flip side of that, JP's wedges feature a ton of camber or rolledness on the front portion of the sole. This elevates the leading edge, and it actually forces the middle of the sole to contact the ground first, and it stops that leading edge from sticking in the ground regardless of the amount of shaft lean that you have. The wedges are then ground to have an extreme amount of relief on the heel, toe, and trail edge, which not only adds a ton of versatility, but it also effectively shrinks the size of the sole and helps reduce drag through impact. And in theory, all of these things should add up to make one of, if not the most effective and easy to use wedge designs available in the marketplace. But while all of that sounds great on paper and from a theoretical standpoint, the real question is, how do these wedges actually perform in real world conditions, and are they truly worth the nearly $300 price tag? Well, that's what we're gonna find out in today's video. So let's head out to the golf course and get to testing. Right guys, so the way we're gonna work through this testing is we have three different JP wedges. We have a 50, 54, and 58, which are all the lofts that I currently play in my bag. Medium bounce in the 50 and 54, and then a low bounce in the 58. We're gonna start around the greens, and then we'll work our way back to some pitch shots, and then we'll end with some full shots, really just seeing how these soles perform. I'm very excited to get into this, so let's go ahead and start with a 58. Taking a look down at this thing, so immediately what I notice in terms of shaping, it's a pretty rounded shape, rounded top line, rounded toe, little bit of belly in the leading edge. This is a very nice shape to my eye personally. Yeah, so immediately for me, what I'm noticing, it seems to want to come off on those lower grooves. You can see that one, I bottomed out early intentionally, and it's very clearly catching more on the middle of the sole, kind of like we talked about earlier. The idea there is it's just going to get you out of the turf really quickly. It's not going to allow you to kind of dig into the ground at all. And then there's one where I kind of leaned the handle a little bit more, but it just doesn't really seem like it wants to dig. You could see that, like I'm trying to kind of get in there and it's not really digging on me. So, all right, little rough shot here. Got a little shaft lean on this one. Yeah, the contact's really good. It's just not so grabby on a shot like this. Kind of comes out a little bit more aggressively. Again, on those lower grooves. It's funny, usually with a wedge like this, you would think it wouldn't be so versatile because of how aggressive that grind is on the lead edge. I really do feel like I can hit a variety of shots with this. And I would say that's probably the one thing that worried me when I first saw these, is I felt like, not sure if it's gonna be great everywhere. It does seem very solid. I feel I can go high with it. Here we'll go to one that's a little bit more kind of nasty into the grain, like right here. You know, this should pull that leading edge down, or try to. And it just kind of, I would say, cuts through it better than I normally would think such a blunted sort of leading edge would. It's very interesting. it just really wants to catch on those lower grooves. It does not want to slide up. I do wonder if it would be hard to hit really high shots with this. Maybe not. This grass is like super suspect for this type of shot, so it's just interesting to see kind of what happens. If I did that with my tee grind, it would have been a really gnarly chunk. And this just doesn't do that. That's actually really, really impressive to see. That's really different. I feel like if I intentionally bottom early, again with my tee grind, the contact just wouldn't be quite as good. Like, it's just coming out more predictably. It's not like chunking on me. But we'll double check that. This is my tee grind, my current Gamer Vokey 58T. Yeah, it just comes out a little bit more dead. The ball kind of slides up the face a little bit. And you can see that one just came out like super dead and chunky. Let's go back to the JP. Seems like it wants to fly a little further. Yeah, with my tee grind, it just feels very flat through the turf. With this, you can kind of feel the higher bounce, or the higher angle, I should say, where that leading edge kind of rolls into the face, if that makes sense. All right, so that was sort of usually that's hard pin. Because it rained yesterday, it was definitely a little bit softer, which is why you could see me kind of digging into the ground there. Now we're actually on the green, so this is gonna be a pretty tight lie normally. Leading edge sits up a little bit. It really just wants to contact very low on the face. You can see how low those are coming out with like tons of spin. If I go to my tee, I want to say it's going to come out a little higher. Yeah, it's definitely going to come out a little bit higher just because the leading edge of this sits a little bit lower. I would call that more of like a medium height shot. The JP is kind of coming out low and spinning, if that makes sense. Just really due to kind of the contact point on the face. Right, guys, we've moved on to a bunker shot now. Very wet sand here, very firm sand. Do it. It's interesting. I mean, the way that JP has worded the way he's designed the wedges, you'd think higher bounce, like it wants to be higher bounce, but that's a shot that I just didn't have any trouble with this thing bouncing off of this firmer sand. Really a testament to how much relief he's added to the wedges. It makes them really, really versatile, I think. Because that's just no problem whatsoever. It's really impressive to me how low bounce this actually plays, because I really don't feel like I have any issues here. Let's go to this long one. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I just really feel like I can do a lot with this. On the tight shots, the ones we were hitting off the green, I would definitely say the tee grind gives you more of an opportunity to hit that shot a little bit higher, just because the ball can kind of run up the face a little bit more. But it's very impressive how versatile this actually is for the design. Right, guys, so we've made our way to the driving range, and we're gonna work through some pitch shots and some fuller shots, starting with the JP 58-degree low bounce, see what we got. That's a good start right there. Again, kind of like around the greens, just feels like that came out nice and low on the face. In terms of numbers there, 27 launch, 77 yards, 70 ball speed, 9,700 spin. Try to hit one a little bit shorter. Yeah, 62 there, 32 launch, 58, 4,300. Let's try to get some shaft lead on this one and really see if we can dig into the ground. No. See, normally that's a shot where if I hit that with my tee grind, it would have run up the face a little bit. It would have come out kind of high, and that didn't at all. So that carried 60 yards with 19 launch and still 8,200 RPMs of spin. That's really, really good on a shot like that. Get into a fuller one now. Again, we'll ball back this thing and just kind of try to slam down on it. I mean, that is really unbelievable. There's no way if I did that with my tee grind, it would get that same result, which is 25 launch, 9,800, 95 carry, 79 ball speed. So this is a low bounce option, still zero issues, just leaning the living crap out of the shaft. Let's hit my tee grind. That's so much different. 34 launch, 73 ball speed, 5200 spin. That's kind of what happens when you start to shaft lean these lower bounce wedges. That leading edge really gets quickly into the ground, and that golf ball contacts a lot higher up on the face. So, right guys, so moving up into the 54 degree now, we'll try to kind of do the same thing. Like I mentioned earlier, medium bounce in the sand and gap wedges for me. In terms of the sizing of this sand wedge, again, it's really good. I would say very comparable to a Vokey. Let's get into some shots with this thing. We'll start shorter. Bottomed out early there, but it just didn't chunk on me. Spin went down, 32 launch, 69 carry, 3700 spin, but that's more my fault. That's just me kind of getting a little bit behind it. That one is one I got better contact on, and the contact is just so crisp. 30 launch, 4700 spin, 80 carry, 69 ball. Some of these numbers are going to be a little bit at the mercy of just the fact that we're using range balls. I tried to pick the freshest, best ones I could. Try to ball back this one a little bit. Yeah, I mean, the thing for me is it's very evident how well these work on the shots where you're putting the golf ball further back in your stance. Again, with these numbers, that's a really good example. 23 launch, 9100, 98 carry, 81 ball speed. So, you know, if you're somebody who really likes to flight your wedges that way, to be completely frank with you, I don't think I've ever felt wedges that really move through the ground quite as well as these. I mean, to be able to launch a 54 degree at 18 and have 9,000 RPMs of spin is pretty ridiculous, to be totally frank. 94 carry, 80 ball speed. Now let's go the other way. Let's try to put it a little bit further up. We'll try to bottom out early and see if that changes anything for us in terms of the contact. That one was much better than the first one. But still, I mean, 39 launch, 4,000 spin, 96 carry, 78 ball speed. So if you're somebody who doesn't like to play shots with tons of forward shaft lean, that's where these probably aren't going to be as successful for you, because you're just catching the middle of that sole before anything else. So you're kind of at the mercy of how that might be deflecting off the turf, if that makes sense. Now we can go to my tee grind, and we'll see what happens if I'm somebody who bottoms out a little bit earlier with the tee grind. It's just a little bit better contact because this sole is so flat. I'll try to open up this medium bounce one and see what happens. Pretty good. But yeah, I just think for me personally, if I was going to game these, I don't think I would want anything more than the low. Just because for me, if I was going to try to hit this 70 yards, I really wouldn't get in here and lean this a lot. I would probably open this up more and use more of the middle of that sole. So I would want something that kind of allows me to get the contact I want without worrying about that sole kind of bouncing up off the turf. But let's go ahead and move into the 50 degree, because this is one where I'm not going to be doing a ton of opening with a 50 degree. So again, looking down at this thing, shape's really, really good. Offset's really, really good. It feels like this is a wedge, but also a club I could hit more fuller kind of distance shots with, which is just really impressive to me from a shaping perspective. We'll start with like maybe a half swing here. Yeah, and that's one where I am leaning the shaft a little bit more through impact, and it's really, really good on that shot. 24 launch, 6,000 spin, 95 carry, 77 ball speed. Again, you can just feel it, contact really nice and low on the face. We'll go 3/4 now. I mean, that is just coming out superbly low. 110, 22, 8,700, 87 ball speed. Yeah, so I just think it really depends on shaft lean with these wedges. We'll go fuller shot here. Any shot with shaft lean, it's so good. I can't really describe how crisp that contact is. 91 ball speed, 119, 26, 68, 50 spin. Again, we're a little bit at the mercy of these range balls in terms of the spin, but I can tell you that where the cover is coming off on the face, every single time it's been on those lower grooves. I will go like really, really full. So good. That is just so good. 129, 5,700, 28 launch, 96 ball speed. We'll go back to this 58 and we'll try to hit some more shots where I'm not leaning it as much to just kind of see what happens. Yeah, and this one is way better on shots you're not leaning. So that's 80 carry, 29 launch, 70 ball speed, 8,100 spin. I just think for me personally, if I was gonna go and play this in the sand wedge, I would probably want a low bounce option. Just because, you know, that's a club where I do shaft lean it sometimes, which is the beauty of the grind, but just having a little bit less of the steepness, I think, would be really helpful. Yeah, because it just looks a little bit less steep. Yeah, and that contact's much better. Again, you could still maybe feel a little bit of the middle of the sole, but 33 launch, 6,000 spin, 73 carry, 65 ball speed. And again, contact, I mean, that is like on the first groove. That's really, really good. Yeah, so I think that's where we're at, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the testing. Let's go over my final conclusions. Right, guys, so final conclusions after testing the JP Camber wedges. We're gonna go ahead and break this down into 5 different categories: looks, feel, turf interaction, versatility, and then an overall. So let's go ahead and start with looks. From an overall presentation perspective, I mean, these are pretty easily a 10 out of 10. From the design of the cavity to the finishing work on the sole, even the fact that he throws in some protective iron covers, all of these little things add up and make the wedges look like a super high-end boutique product, in my opinion. Now, at address, the shape is definitely a little bit more rounded, which I can tend to be a critique of, but he did a great job at balancing the flow of the wedge. From the hosel into the leading edge shape itself is a little bit straighter, so it really feels like you can play these in a variety of different conditions, open face and square face as well. So I am a big fan of them from a looks perspective. As we move into feel, it's definitely not something I touched on while I was out on the golf course, but they feel great. I mean, I can't sit here and say they're life-changingly soft, but they're forged out of 1025 carbon steel. So as you can imagine, they do feel pretty soft, and I absolutely believe they will hold up with anything else on the market. Getting into turf interaction on fuller shots now, I'm gonna make a bold statement here. I believe that these are the best wedges I have ever tested in this category, and that's saying something because I test a ton of different wedge products, as you could probably imagine, but because that leading edge stays at a super consistent height regardless of the amount of shaft lean that you have, they just don't dig like other wedges on the market, and they stay incredibly crisp and consistent from a strike perspective, shot to shot. It's just frankly unlike anything I've personally ever experienced with any other grind on the market. And versatility wise, because of all the relief he's added, it really feels like you can play a ton of different shots with these around the greens, which I think adds to how impressive the sole design is. So if all of that is top tier, why don't I think we see these in the bags of every single tour player in the world? Well, there is one issue that I have experienced with the Cambers, and it comes in the form of 2 shots. A shot you're trying to hit off of super firm and tight turf, or a shot you're trying to elevate and hit extremely high and soft with that handle back. Because the leading edge sits up higher than other grinds on the market, and the middle of the sole is contacting the ground first, it really doesn't allow you to get that leading edge in super close behind the golf ball, which for the higher level player who has really good control over lead edge height, this can be frustrating because the sole ends up deflecting up off of the turf before you can slide that leading edge under. And yes, while it makes the design uber forgiving for amateur players, I think it ultimately limits what you're able to do in those couple of situations that I just mentioned, which pros do tend to face a lot at a higher level. Now, to answer the question, are they worth the $300 price tag? Ultimately, it depends on the player, but I think if you're somebody who's really struggled with turf interaction and controlling low point, but you want a wedge that gives you the opportunity to do it all around the greens, I genuinely believe this is one of the best designs you could ever try. On the contrary, if you're a high-level player already who has an extremely skilled short game, while I have no doubt that these absolutely could be incredible, it's going to depend a lot on the amount of shots that you play with that handle more back and the type of turf conditions that you tend to play on. Guys, it was an absolute joy to test these. I hope you enjoyed it as well. I'd love to hear your opinions on the wedges, so go ahead and drop them in the comments down below. If you have any questions about them, again, drop them in the comments down below or shoot me a DM via Instagram. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to give it a like. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel and you click that notification bell so you are notified anytime that we post a new video. Additionally, make sure you're following us on our other social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. Always great content on those channels as well. We'll catch you in the next video. Peace.